The firefighter who adopted the baby he rescued the night was cold and unusually quiet in a small town in Ohio, USA. Firefighter Daniel Brooks, a 34-year-old veteran rescuer, had just poured himself a cup of coffee.
Let's move! Hustle up!
He was known among his team as calm, brave, and dependable, but there was one thing most people didn't know. Daniel lived alone. No wife, no children, just silence when he returned home after long shifts. Suddenly, the emergency alarm screamed through the station. A fire reported at 214 Maple Street. Possible people trapped inside. Within seconds, Daniel and his crew rushed into the fire truck, sirens echoing through the dark streets. The bright red truck sped through traffic as smoke filled the sky ahead.
Get her to
When
the
they arrived,
ambulance!
flames were already swallowing the small wooden house. Neighbors stood outside, panicked and shouting. A woman ran toward Daniel, crying hysterically. There's a
here with
baby
your
inside.
baby.
Please, my neighbor's
I'm
baby is
going
still in
in.
there. Angel's heart pounded. Without hesitation, he grabbed his helmet and oxygen mask. I'm going in, he said firmly. The heat inside the house was unbearable. Smoke made it almost impossible to see. Furniture cracked as flames spread across the ceiling. Daniel moved carefully, searching room after room.
I
Then
gotcha.
He heard it, a faint, desperate
It's
cry.
okay,
A
we're
baby.
going home
Following
now.
the sound, Daniel rushed to a small bedroom. The crib was surrounded by smoke, and the ceiling above it was beginning to collapse. Inside the crib lay a tiny baby girl, barely a few months old, coughing weakly. I've got you, Daniel whispered. He gently wrapped the baby in his protective jacket and held her close to his chest. Just as he turned to leave, part of the ceiling crashed behind him. The exit was nearly blocked.
okay, I
For a moment,
gotcha.
fear gripped
We're
him.
getting outta
He
here,
pushed forward,
Hope.
shielding the baby from falling debris. Step by step, he forced his way through the smoke. Finally, he burst out of the front door. The crowd gasped as Daniel emerged, covered in soot, holding the baby safely in his arms. Paramedics rushed forward. The baby was alive. Everyone cheered, but Daniel barely noticed. His eyes stayed fixed on the tiny girl who had stopped crying and was now quietly staring at him. That moment changed his life forever. A heartbreaking discovery later that night, Daniel learned devastating news. The baby's mother had not survived the fire, and there was no father listed on record. No relatives came forward. The little girl was alone in the world. She was placed in temporary foster
got
care,
her.
given the
She's
name
safe.
Hope by
Take
social
her.
workers. But Daniel couldn't stop thinking about her. He remembered the way
Copy
she looked
that.
at him.
Bring 'em
calm
both
and trusting,
over
even
here
in the
now.
chaos. Days turned into weeks. Still, he kept asking about her condition. Finally, one evening, Daniel visited the foster home. Hope was sitting quietly in a small crib holding a stuffed teddy
You
bear.
did good.
When she saw Daniel, her tiny face lit up. She reached her arms toward him. The foster mother smiled. She remembers you, she said softly. Daniel felt something deep inside his chest, something he had never felt before. Love, the life-changing decision. That night, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, staring at the empty walls. For years, he had dedicated his life to saving others.
It's okay,
He never
Hope.
built a family
You're
of his
safe
own.
now.
He thought about Hope, alone,
safe
vulnerable,
now.
needing someone to protect her. The next morning, Daniel walked into the child services office. His voice was steady but emotional. I want to adopt her. The social worker looked surprised. Adoption wasn't simple. It required background checks, interviews, and months of evaluation. But Daniel didn't give up. He attended
want to
parenting
adopt
classes.
her.
He prepared his
I'm
home.
ready
He
to
proved he
sign
could
the
provide love,
papers.
safety, and stability.
This is a
Month after
wonderful
month, he waited
decision,
patiently.
Daniel.
Finally, the day arrived.
She's
A new
lucky
beginning
to
inside a
have
small
you.
courtroom. Daniel stood nervously as the judge reviewed the documents. Hope sat in his arms, wearing a tiny pink dress. The judge smiled warmly. Mr. Brooks, today this child officially becomes your daughter. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He hugged Hope tightly. Welcome home, he whispered. The courtroom erupted in applause. From that day forward, Daniel was no longer alone. His quiet apartment became filled with laughter, toys, and bedtime stories. Years passed. Hope grew into a cheerful,
No,
energetic little girl
stop
who loved
it.
drawing
That
pictures of her father in his
tickles.
firefighter uniform.
Get
One day,
'em,
during a school
Bear.
event, the teacher asked students to talk about their heroes. Hope stood proudly in front of the class. She pointed to Daniel sitting in the audience. My hero is my dad, she said. He saved my life, and then he gave me a family. Daniel wiped tears from his eyes as the with applause. Because sometimes the greatest rescue isn't just saving a life, it's giving someone a future.